get it. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, you guys. So Austin Tam, who hopefully is going to be able to join in. Hi, Jamila. Austin!
Hello, hi everybody.
Okay, so guess what, you guys? So Austin Tam, I have known since middle school. We went to like church camp together and all this. And so now he is a disability advocate, which means that, you know, he has lived his life kind of not knowing that he had certain disabilities. He discovered that he had these disabilities. And what he did with it is that he ended up becoming an advocate and also somebody that's an activist in the community. He ran for a chair. Hi. He ran. I forgot what exact.
Alameda County Democrat. I'll explain later. It's okay.
Okay. So he ran for a particular chair in politics because he wanted to make a difference. So he went and did that, and his campaign is about making the invisible visible. And so also Austin Tam, he took up some like stand-up comedy, and he's always been funny. One of my like favorite memories about him is we always used to have these talent shows during the summer camps. And so he would get up there and then, you know, he's saying Michael Jackson, do you remember the time, on the microphone? And everybody that I know, there was probably like a couple hundred of us kids there. We all remember a memorable moment forever. Do you remember? Yes, Kiyoshi and the Yamazakis are watching. Hello. Hi, everybody.
Oh, hi, you're so good.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, say that. Say, how did you do it? How did you do the song?
Do you remember? Okay,
yeah.
So sorry. So, I want to thank you for choosing to interview me today, especially in the times we're living in with the pandemic and sheltering in place. And
wait, look at me, Austin. Austin, look at me.
Oh, sorry. So much uncertainty in the world, and you know, and I try to look at the positive, even I mean not positive, but you know, it's almost like a reminder for us all to appreciate each other and to appreciate what we have, right? Appreciate what we have, actually.
Exactly. So, well, you know, but you've already been doing that a lot in your life because your whole campaign about making the invisible visible, you know, kind of is like a message that all of us can use like right now because, right, like all of us are supposed to, other than, you know, essential workers, we're at home. And hi, Leroy. I think that's your friend. So, you know, all of us that have to be inside that are not essential workers, some of us may not feel seen, some of us may not feel heard, you know, but this is a great time, like you said, to focus on positive, look at ourselves and how we can be creative, how we can kind of like change things up. So tell me, Austin, about when your journey to discovering you having a disability, tell me kind of, you know, what did that look like for you when you first found out?
I think that was in college. I think like in 2001, 2002, because after high school, because I had struggled with my classes, and you know, I was encouraged to do to take advantage of the help they would give me, right? They would give me extra help. They would like give me a tutor or something. But see, I think it had a lot of connection with how I felt about myself, my self-esteem. Because back in the day, I know, like, you know, as a teenager and young adult, you don't want to be talking about disability. So, and it's a lot of reason why, like, you know, self-esteem issues I had. But then over time, I think we connected the dots, and, you know, it was realized because I have a disability, you know, it just, it created more burden. And then it took at least almost 30 years to like empower myself, right? So I could speak about it, share my story. I'm very humble and honored that I've been interviewed a few times, like Leroy, who's on this call. And I was interviewed by UC Berkeley last week. March 30th, I was interviewed by a professor at UC Berkeley. I was supposed to go there on live, but because of the pandemic, the coronavirus, I just did like this live at home.
See, I love that, and I'm so proud of you for speaking out and sharing your story and sharing your truth, because I know that you told me when you were in high school, you actually didn't tell your friends. You didn't want anyone to really know that you were like getting extra help, right? So you kept it a secret. And so for the longest time, you know, you wanted to live like quote unquote as normal as you can be. And then when you did share with your friends that have known you for a very long time that you did have a disability, that's when, like you said, some of your friends told you, they're like, well, what, you know, we would have, if we had known, then we would have kind of looked at you differently, or, you know, they may have treated you differently. So,
Yes.
so like, how did you feel when you talked to your friends and, you know, kind of shared with them for the first time that, you know, you discovered the various disabilities that you had been diagnosed with?
Um, it was interesting because it was kind of like, well, you know, I had to share it with them, and then it was like, oh, they didn't know, and they're like, oh, because you know, because like even if maybe I was like, maybe if I talked about it in like seventh, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, it'd be different, but in like high school, it was kind of different. I mean, you know, it's different, and you know, you want to be popular and stuff, so.
Yeah.
I guess it was different because over time, because I it took so long for me to share it, and then it was emotional, but then you know, also in our culture too. Now someone's like, well, you know, in Asian culture too, being Asian American, I know it's like a stigma. So I'm like, oh, people, I can't find people who look like me, or like,
Right.
it looks kind of, it's look kind of something wrong, and it makes you more feel more isolated or more invisible. Like even a pandemic is like people with disabilities, and I know people with mental health issues. It's hard because then they can't go, you
And
know,
get
even
their help.
they've done this before. Yeah, they've done this before. I mean, even before the pandemic, I mean, the coronavirus, they couldn't go out, or they were limited. And then, you know, now everyone is kind of like, not, I don't want to say stuck at home or can't go out, but now they have to do it live. And a lot of people with disabilities, I know, have to do it like this because they can't go to rallies, they can't go to demonstrations because sometimes it's not, they need accessibility, like elevators, like bar stations have no elevators whatsoever. The bus is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm hoping that this has shed light on a lot of different things, like especially on people with disabilities and people who would not normally be almost, I don't want to say counted, but almost be just recognized, you know, even in the society, because they're supposedly the most vulnerable. I mean, the seniors and the people with disabilities.
Right. And mental health, I mean, a lot of the things like you're saying that, I mean, the phrase, you know, make the invisible visible. These are the things that a lot of people assume don't exist. So like when you look at someone physically and they look like a perfectly healthy person, there
Mhm.
may be things that we can't physically see, but actually they are struggling with things that may alter their ability to, you know, communicate, to do regular things that most other people can do easily. Or like you said, when it comes to physical ailments, like they need accessibility, they need the elevators, they need, you know, a safe space. So Yumi says, hi, Austin. Very proud and happy for you. And Jamila says, I'm glad you're speaking now and you're doing an amazing job. Yes, Austin,
Thank
like
you.
I told you before, you are, because see, so to everybody that's watching, like I was mentioning, Austin not only, you know, is an advocate and an activist, but when you actually put yourself out there, share your story, he is taking a stand, you know, on a political side to look at legislation, to look at various things within his community and especially his county. So then
Yeah.
that, you know, if there's things that he feels, you know, needs to be granted more attention, you know, he's speaking out about it. So I loved when Austin first told me that he was getting into politics, because I could just picture him. You told me that you would go to the city council meetings and you would be up there standing and getting on the mic, and then like they would tell you that, okay, Mr. Tam, your time is up, you have to go. And I could just picture him just standing up there, you know, saying whatever, being passionate, you know, because Austin, you know, sometimes you would get really, really passionate or upset about things that was making you really mad, you know. And I just applaud you for that, because anytime anyone like speaks up like that, that's where like real change can happen, you know, because you're going to these meetings, you're taking the time to speak out and, you know, to let your voice be heard for those that may not have the courage or the ability to speak out. So I really am proud of you, you know,
Thank you.
for
Thank you. And this is what happened. I remember I think it happened in 2000. Remember, because I remember I was hanging out with you, and it was it was before the election of 2000, and it was after that it was over, and they were recounting the Gore versus Bush issue.
uh-huh.
And that was the first time. And I was not very political back then. I was actually, no, I wasn't very political, because I was like, oh, George W. Bush won. I mean, I wasn't for George W. Bush, but I was like not political either. I mean, I was getting political, but not. I mean, I was, but
Weren't
like
as
you said,
knowledgeable
yeah,
as you are now. Yeah.
yeah,
So
and I, it, yeah,
One thing about Austin is he has an impeccable memory. So he is somebody that has a very special gift. He had like, so he's remembered a lot of things, and this is what makes like, you know, like when even when you're talking about politics, you know a lot of facts because you have great memorization skills. So one of the things that he studied and that he really loved was like the Golden Globes. So the
oh
Golden
yes,
Globes, the
Gordon,
Academy Awards, all that stuff. So if
I
you were to
remember.
ask Austin who won Best Supporting Actress in 1999, yeah, who won the Best Supporting Actress in 1999? He
I think that was. Oh, I think that was. Oh, I think was that. I think I forgot. I because the years go funny because like 93. Oh, I think it was Judy Dench in Shakespeare in Love. I mean, that was an upset. But a lot of people have my memorization. I have a learning disability, but my a lot of people say my gift is to remember different things like phone numbers. I mean, I'm not gonna say your number right now, but a lot of people who's on here, like I remember phone numbers. I remember like cell numbers. Some of the numbers like who won the Oscar, what movies, like Forrest Gump. I remember, I know you said Mara Wilson. You interviewed Mara Wilson, right? She was from Miracle on the 34th Street, and she was on Miss Doubtfire, and I don't know, that movie on Madeline, or not Madeline, but
Matilda. Matilda.
yeah, Matilda. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Matilda.
yeah. But
But
see,
that's my gift. My gift
yeah,
is to,
and everybody has gifts, and that's like, that's the whole point is when Austin is talking about, hey Fatal, hi Allison, Emmanuel, hi Mo. So it's like, okay,
yeah,
Austin, he is speaking for those that are invisible, to give people a voice and to share, to inspire people, and so what he's talking about is the fact that he is able to say, like, I have this gift, I have the ability to memorize. So back in the day when he was bullied, maybe,
yeah,
and misunderstood for,
yes,
the things that he didn't even understand about himself when it came to disabilities, it was kind of like, well, what do I do with it? How do I turn something that could be viewed as a negative into a positive? And now, like I was saying, I'm grateful that you are taking a stand, even politically, to make a difference. Austin remembers, Yumi says, Austin remembers everything. He remembers how we first met. It's crazy. And that was over 20 years ago. Yeah, Austin, like he said, he remembers everybody's phone numbers. Back in the day, that was a very useful because, like, when we didn't have the cell phones and stuff like that,
oh
the party
no, it would
line
be
and on the
bad.
phone and everything, he remembers everybody's phone numbers.
Like in all the people like that I met before, and then like different, and I think it's been a blessing and curse, obviously, like my mom and dad has said. Having learned disability, I mean, not blessing and the curse, but in like some way, like I remember certain things. There's limitations. I have limitations, but then I'm able to embrace it more now and then share it more. And I'm still trying to write my book. It's taking a long time. I've
You have
wanted
a
to
lot
do
to
it for 20 years.
share. Yeah.
A lot to share,
I'm
but then
excited about that book. I support you on that for sure. Like, okay, so the other thing too is, so one of the scariest things for like entertainers, I didn't say scary, but
yeah,
this is something that is suggested to entertainers, is that, like, if you're an actor, you should also try to get into comedy. And what you do is you put yourself out there, you get on a stage and you do stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy is one of the hardest things because you're raw. It's like you're just open and exposed. And every great comic has been on a stage and been booed off the stage. So it's not the easiest thing. But this guy right here, he decided that he's going to do stand-up comedy too as well. So he's like, let me push through every single barrier, let me not even have these fears and let me push right through them. And so you have also done like stand-up comedy. That is so incredible. Like, Austin, like, so
yes,
have you done it like at church? Have you done like in
yeah,
your
I did. Yeah, I did it at church in September 2017. We had 80 people come. It was like a community thing. There was 80 people, and I shared about like just we had a prompter, but then sometimes I didn't really look at the thing. Look at like they had a thing that I said, remember when like I lost my key. I've been lost, like I won the creek. I've got lost in San Jose. I've got lost in the Philippines. I've got lost in Palestine. I've got lost in I've gotten lost all over the place, and actually, somehow I was always able to come back. I mean, able to find my way. But I'm ruthless when it comes to losing phones and losing my iPod. I've had like 20, like almost like literally every version of the iPod, like the small iPod Nano, and also they asked me if I wanted my refund, and I'm like, no refund. I'm like, oh, and I broke a camera. I remember Lonnie's dad accidentally ran over my camera, video camera outside. Remember in the garage? We came back from camp and it just outside on the driveway. It got ran over. I'm like, dang, got ran over, and it's like I only bought it like a month ago. But those kind of things is like, you know, but also my family has been like my dad who passed, but who's it's gonna be 5 years this month. He was a special ed teacher, but I know it was very hard for him. As a family, it's very hard to not hard, but it's kind of like difficult to accept at times because because you kind of I guess the parent is looked at a lot. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like,
Right.
and also, the man, and then, it's kind of like over time, because, when you see me, they're like, I don't see a disability. I just see Austin Tam. But I'm like, well, this is why I text a lot. I email a lot. I call a lot. I don't call a lot. I text too much. That's not because I like to text too much.
But you know what you're really great at? You're extremely persistent. So like if you ever need someone to like do a fundraiser or like, make phone calls, like Austin is your guy. So
Hi, Sonny.
that's why it's like getting into politics is good because he will get at you to sign the petition. If there's something that he believes in, or like I said, fundraisers, and you're needing to call and be like, hey, can you just donate $5? Like he will be that guy that will call you and not worry about the fear of someone saying no. He's not going to worry about that. And just want to mention about your dad. May he rest in peace. Your dad was an amazing man, and I know that was a terrible loss in the community. He was also a principal too of a school as well. So yes,
and he did Reiki. Yeah. He did Reiki. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Reiki. Yes. So Sean says yes, he's determined. And Mia says, I'm so grateful for the both of you for covering this topic and bringing awareness.
Wonderful people in here. And then it's interesting because, my family was very not typical, like, in the Chinese family or Asian families. They're like more like, they keep it like because of the stigma. But my mom did a lot of advocacy in the 1980s. It was hard because, back then they thought I had they thought I was mentally ill because we saw a kid that was like, was kind of like, they kind of was rough on him because he had a disability. Right. But then the doctor was just like, oh, he has mental, because I was crying because I felt bad for the kid. And then they said that looks a little strange because how can you have empathy when you're this old? So my mom dealt with the schools. It was a bureaucracy. The schools were bad, like the teachers were bad, and she really had to educate. It was like 1980. It was like 1985, 86, right? But then that was, and then now I guess now they merge the class. I feel like it's good in some way they merge in order to raise awareness with people with disabilities among just mainstream, because the mainstream because they're not gonna ever hang out with each other. I don't think. I think in the mainstream, because otherwise you're gonna have a class on special day class and then resource class, and then that's the problem I had in school. Because
I think that's a good point what you're saying, because like when I worked with autistic kids and I took one of my clients, I was a paraeducator, so I went to the actual school, and so they had 10 special ed kids and 20 regular ed kids and it was a first grade class. And I think that does like help kids learn empathy and understanding, instead of like isolating and separating. But it is hard sometimes because you do, like, when there are certain students that may be violent or be screaming, it can be a distraction. But for those that do not cause a distraction in the classroom, I think it does help, for everyone to be open to people being different, and so that there is the empathy and understanding, starting at a very young age. And I see that as being, very important. That's a very good point.
Because there's a lot of, like you said, disability. There's a lot of different disabilities, like mental health issue, like disability. There's physical. Then there's physical. There's the learning. There's the mobility. Because it's interesting, and a lot of people say to my mom, "Oh, he looks so normal." It's like, well, I don't. What's normal? Because like people say, like just now, we're never going to be normal. Now, a normal is not like we should never have been normal, because normal, quote unquote, because some people said he looks so. Even the people that really surprised me, I thought it would understand. They were like, I did not know. And then it's but then it's kind of like, wow, it's like. But then for me it's kind of interesting because I get all excited when I see someone, like, not excited, but when I see someone with a disability, I'm like, yeah, not in my mind, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not, yes, but
Well, you
but
feel
yeah,
not so alone,
yeah.
and that somebody can understand. I remember, so when we were talking about a specific movie, you appreciated the fact that the director refused to have the main character pretend that they had a disability, because the director wanted to make sure that the story was told in an authentic way. So they hired an actor that actually had a disability, right? What
Peanut
movie?
Butter Falcon.
Yeah,
But Peanut Butter Falcon, because it was an independent film, and I cannot pronounce his name, but Zach, Gottasgen. I don't know how, but he and what's his name? The actor. Oh gosh, the actor from Honey Boy. What is that, Honey Boy or something? No, I don't know what movie that was, but that was a terrible movie. They went to the Oscars and to present, and he took a long time to say the Oscar goes to. So people were like, why is he getting made fun of? But I don't think he was getting made fun of. I think because those two, he was the co-star in the Peanut Butter Falcon. I like that movie. I said it was the best film ever, but not best film. But I think for a portrayal of someone with disabilities, and I appreciate that, because the movies it's hard, because it's not like I can say, oh, who's like, there's not a disability activist I could really look up to. I mean, Ed Roberts, there was one, but then like someone of color or Asian, or even a movie that's portrayed like, I know there's been movies like Children of a Lesser God. There's been a movie of Mice and Men. There's portrayals in like Leonardo DiCaprio and What's Eating Gilbert
oh,
Grape in this
what's
movie.
eating
Yeah,
Gilbert Grape?
yeah.
She's saying, is it Jack or Noah or somebody like that?
Oh,
Well,
I
I mean,
forgot. No, it's okay.
I think that's true. Like when it comes to like what's eating Gilbert Grape,
Yeah,
he was really great in that movie because he
yeah.
actually studied and really wanted to be authentic, to the role. And I think he's a rare case in terms of his abilities as an actor. He was phenomenal in that role.
LaBeouf, Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, Shia LaBeouf.
But what a really touching part. Shia LaBeouf is, you know, he has the thing, the character in the movie in real life, because he actually got drunk and got arrested on the set, and then he was like, he made a promise that he would not get drunk again, because he got arrested, and during the film setting, I don't know which part of it, but I think um that movie saved his life pretty much. I mean, and the actor saved his life too, because he promised him not that he wouldn't drink again, and
Right.
you know
Well, sometimes that does happen, right? Like there's certain experiences that force us. Like you don't want to have to be forced by a bad situation to make you make the right choices,
yes,
But a lot of times that does happen to many of us, where we're forced through tragedy or loss, or we could lose our freedom, or
yes.
various things like that. Usually loss will compel us to have to reflect and look at life in a different way to make better choices. Sean says, yes, Hollywood needs more representation of diverse people. Yes, absolutely. I mean, and that's why, like, so myself, and my son, who's an
Yes.
actor, I'm down in Southern California, and this is something that, I have opened my doors to. So I work with studios, I work with independent creatives. And so when it comes to like creating content and seeing this content, conscious content that's representing all people, this is something that a lot of us are about. But yeah, when it comes to like the larger studios on a larger scale, it's a little bit more challenging, because you definitely need to get into the pockets of big money so that more people know about these projects. But like you said, there's a lot of independent films, and there are documentaries and films that are now able to get a lot of more viewership on YouTube, on Netflix, on Amazon, and people are watching in the millions. And
On
so
Hulu, and I forgot the other, and also And us and the guy that plays in the Peanut Butter Falcon, I guess he got another role, but they can't really say what because I don't know what movie it is, but that opened the door because actress Melanie Griffith, her
Look at
daughter.
camera. I want to see your face. I want to see your face.
Oh, I'm sorry, Melanie Griffith, Melanie Griffith, the mother of the actress in the movie, actually. I mean, now that he has like Bruce Dern and Melanie, Dakota Johnson. Yeah, they really support him, and Shia LaBeouf, and the fact that they were like, Zach, he's a member of the Academy, but I mean, he deserved the Oscar, but I mean, a nomination, but it's kind of like it's interesting because if you're a person who's not disabled and is playing a role, look, Marley Madeline, Daniel Day-Lewis, Tom Hanks. I mean, they said he has in Forrest Gump. I mean, and Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, all the ones who won the Oscar, they either played someone who was mentally ill or someone with a disability, which is really like Patty Duke in Miracle Worker, right?
That's a good point that you're making too. But you know what? I think that possibly then, like you're mentioning, if we're going in a direction where there's like people without disabilities playing people with disabilities, then at least that there's some sort of awareness and it does bring out the conversation. Which then, while you though are someone that's actually taking an active stance, on the ground floor, you are at the county, you're at the city council meeting.
Oh yeah, I was elected. I was humbly elected. I'm sorry, I was humbly elected March 3rd to the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee. I was humbly there was 28 seats, and only 11 people could win. So I was humbly and honored to be elected with 27,900 votes.
Wow.
And yeah, thank you so much. And I was on the
I didn't know if you actually got the seat. That's so exciting.
Oh, thank you. No, the county, what it is the Alameda County Democratic Party Central Committee are elected every 4 years. They represent all Alameda County, including 5 assembly districts. The Central Committee functions as the local body of the California Democratic Party, and it is the gateway to the party. It determines what candidates will be endorsed and supported by the party and how much money and how the money will be distributed across the country. But a lot of our progressives around it included Fremont, Newark, Union City, Santa Clara, Dublin, Hayward, Alameda, Oakland, San Leandro, Berkeley. But it was very humbling. I mean, we won 5 seats out of the 5 seats, but I mean, it was very humbling because, there was no representation among people with disabilities. So that was my platform.
That is like, that's to me, seriously, like beyond, I can't even describe or eloquent in words, like how amazing and just wonderful that is. Because like I was saying that, real change happens there. And obviously, as we all know, like, it's not about, to me, like politics isn't just about, left, right, that type of politics. Politics is life. It does affect us, the decisions that are being made. So it's amazing that you're a part of it. It's amazing that you're courageous and brave enough to speak out and be a voice for people to make the invisible visible. Like, it is incredible. And we didn't even really get to touch too much on, like, so what I do know about Austin, like I said, we've known each other for such a long, long time. And we met each other as kids because we were brought up in a church and we had church camps. And so I was a camper, and then I was a counselor. As I got older, Austin too as well was a camper and then a counselor. And so we learned a lot of like leadership skills. We learned a lot of things. But unfortunately, like Austin, I did witness and experience Austin like going through things that was very hard in terms of what we would define now as like bullying, and those experiences like, do shape a person. And like he was mentioning, like, having to kind of accept, who he is, and having insecurities being brought out, having, the feelings of not being heard or not being respected, not being valued, like all those things were triggered from those experiences. But once then, you connected the dots, like you said, and you found out really that, there is these disabilities that you have, and you learn to accept it and embrace it, you really turned it into a beautiful story, and the beautiful story of your life. And I'm just like really inspired and so proud of you. Like, I can't say it enough.
Thank you
Like,
so much, because it's thank you so much. It's been like a, like I said, someone asked me how I would describe it, because it's been a wilderness. I've been in the wilderness. I've been in the journey. I've been on the mountain. I've been in the hellish parts, and even like my minister has, a lot of people have shaped my life. My parents, my family, my siblings, my pastor who's leaving, who's retiring at the end of June. But I think that they all have somehow shaped my life, because I'm who I am. I've had to go through the valleys and the thorns, and I think like different things, like changes, transitions. My dad dying, Pastor Michael Yoshi from Church Buena Vista, retiring, different things, and I think because not everyone has the same journey, or a difficult journey, or it's but to get through the journey, it's like, whew, it's like once you get out of it, it's like, oh wow, now it's like, no, I mean, not that's easy, but it's not like, I
right.
mean, it's funny, because when we think about it, it's like, oh, who shaped your life, who inspired you, it's not like, and then you live to tell, right? You live to tell your story. And everyone has a different story. That's the story. The thing about stories. The stories are the most powerful and in depth, because you have a glimpse of someone's life through the mirror. That's why I'm always like, I love the word reflections, or like reflection through, like, whatever, different or like I always said, like on my disability summits, we all need to take our mask off, because once we take the mask off, then you find out who you really are, right? It's interesting, because now we have to wear masks right now, but it's interesting because someone's like, I don't want to wear a mask. And it's like, now we know how it feels, because now people are like, oh, I feel like a leper, or like I have a disease. But I'm like, well, a lot of people, like people who are like have dysfunction, like just different things, like you have to wear a mask. Now we have to wear a mask now, and it's like, oh, how ironic. It's like,
Yeah.
it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's causing people to feel and think differently, and possibly, like you're mentioning, you know, uh, kind of have some more empathy and understanding of what it
Yes.
feels like to be somebody else, you
Yes.
know. And it is hard to live a life where you are not able to be yourself. And like you said, taking the mask off. This was actually the message earlier that I had,
Oh,
today, about just really being authentic and true to yourself. And when you do that, like you're doing right now, you're living in your truth, you're being your authentic self. You are not only just showing up to your friends and your family, but to a community. I mean, you were voted in, you have the chair, over 27,000 something votes. That's incredible for the county of Alameda. They are so lucky to have you, and you're showing up as you for all of us. And it's so powerful, so motivating and inspiring. I am just to the moon right now. That is so exciting. Because I didn't know that. I didn't know that till right now.
because
So
I remember when it was humbling and honoring to have you interview me in November 2019. Remember, and I was running for the seat, but I was running for the seat at that time.
yeah,
But we only ran on the campaign of like $5,000, and it's sometimes money can buy, but then it's I was I was empowered, because I was like, no one wants to talk about disabilities, and there's no representation. That's why I said I'm running, because there's no representation. I'm running for people who cannot run. I'm running for people who cannot run, because I'm like, you know it's kind of um it was very humbling, and it was very and I'm trying to do intersections, like what does it mean with, like, the the coronavirus, and different things. And I'm so honored that Elani, all people wanna interview me. That's very humbling, because I'm like, maybe now
yeah,
I'm saying,
of course. I've known
yes,
you, since I was young, and you were there for me too when I was just a young
no,
girl.
no
So
problem. You stay young, don't worry.
okay, Austin. Well, Mr. Austin Tam,
Thank you, everybody.
yes, thank you everyone for joining. And
Sorry, it
so
was not.
Mia says,
Yeah.
listen, Mia says, I love how much he knows about the art versus the disability and so much knowledge of film. Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Miss. Thank you, Mina.
Mia, yeah, like
Oh, thank you,
obviously,
Mia. I'm
she has
sorry, I
so
said the wrong
much
name.
knowledge and knows so many things. And, you know, I think this is a pure example of what it looks like when, you know, somebody believes in you, when people believe in you, and then when you believe in yourself enough for you to stand out into the world as your true, authentic self and, you know, not hide behind the mask. So, again, I do this every single weekday at 3 p.m. This is called ELANI Talk, and I go live at 3 with ELANI. And
Thank
I
you.
have amazing guests like Austin Tam. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, they said my students have someone to look up to. Proud of you,
Thank
Austin.
you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Shawnee.
Tiffany. Thank you,
That was
everybody
Randy.
that's
Thank
been
you, Randy.
listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you to the
Thank you.
Yamazakis and everybody
Thank
else
you,
that
Yamazaki.
tuned in and watched. And yes, okay.
Okay, I'll
Thank
see you
you.
at the
Take
Academy
care.
Award, Lonnie. Just kidding. Bye bye.
Okay.
How do I turn off?
No, I will end it. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody.